Like many people, I spent last Sunday evening entirely gripped by the football. It was the first time in my lifetime that England had played in the final of a major international tournament, and that sense of pride and anticipation and excitement was infectious. Although I was disappointed in the end, I was really taken by the way that the England team seemed to be gracious in defeat, and by the way the whole team instantly sought to comfort those of their teammates who felt the disappointment most keenly. I remember thinking what an important moment this was for the millions of young people watching the match, and how the team, and particularly their captain, were giving a real-time lesson in what it means to try your absolute best and still face defeat with grace and humility, something that I think we all need to learn in life. But all of this was overshadowed by a small but vocal minority who responded with the most appalling expressions of racism and hatred, turning the team's loss into something much more insidious and vile. But the overwhelming response of support for those players directly affected, and the wide public condemnation of racism, is by far the more important change that has occurred in my lifetime, and for me, far more significant than the fact that the England team got to the final. The future looks good for the England team. They're a young side of players who now have an international final under their belt, and all of us can look to the future of English football with enthusiasm and confidence. But the racism that reared its ugly head needs addressing now and not in the future. Because the racism we saw this week is not something that happens occasionally to international footballers. The racism we saw and were all appalled by is the lived experience of people in this country on a daily basis. For Christians, the greatest symbol of victory is the cross, the instrument of torture upon which Jesus died. To the rest of the world, the idea that a cross could be a symbol of victory was seen as scandalous by some and just downright foolish by others. But the paradox of Christianity was that in death, Christ wins the greatest victory. In dying, new life is restored. And it's a constant reminder to us that when all seems lost, with God, there is always a greater triumph to be had. Let's hope that in the defeat on the football pitch and the racism that situation has exposed, there might be a greater victory. A victory of turning hearts and minds of the people of this nation and all nations to call out racism whenever it happens. That, indeed, would be the greatest triumph.